Moving on to what sort of expenditure you can include in the claim. So what they define that as is going to be core development expenditure. So the way they describe it is the designing, producing and testing phases of that game. So initially you might have a sort of a pre-production process, normally based around coming up with the initial concept of the game. That sort of stage of the initial concept and work around that is not the point which you'll be able to make a claim for. You only can start claiming costs when you sort of get a green light and sort of agree to go ahead and prepare and produce this video game. It's not a sort of an idea of, yeah, we've got this idea, we'll just see if it works. That sort of stage won't be eligible for the claim. It's the point we go, yes, we've come up with this idea, we're going to go ahead with it. That's the date in which you can start making the claim and claiming expenditure relating around that. So that's the crucial bit. You'll need to establish is the date in when you sort of get that green light to go ahead with the production. There's a number of excluded expenditure for the claim, which you wouldn't be able to include. Marketing and distribution. So you only can claim at the point in which you sort of finish the game and release it for public use, public sale. Anything related to you trying to promote or advertise the game wouldn't be eligible cost for the game. As well as that, there's also hardware costs. So if you build up a team of developers and for employees and you buy them hardware, computer, laptops, that sort of thing, those sorts of costs wouldn't be allowable in the claim. Any post-release bug fixing or maintenance or general maintenance of the game. So quite often and not we see where a game has been released and is available for playing and purchasing to the general public. Now, if you're still doing stuff to the game and developing new features, potentially, even though you might have released the game, you still might be able to make claim on those new features. But if you're doing work just regarding any bug fixing, which users have identified once they're playing it, or any sort of general maintenance of the servers and that sort of stuff, those costs you won't be able to claim. But if you are doing post-release development of new features and things like that, you still, even though you might have released it, still might be able to make a claim. So you can have a claim going on multiple years as long as you carry on developing the game. You still might be able to make a claim on those. Something else to exclude is dividends, and it's quite relevant for those who are is your personal company. So it's quite often or not that a personal company, you have a remuneration structure through sort of low salary and high dividends to be tax efficient with your income. If you're looking to claim your time and your cost in part of the claim, you won't be able to include dividends there. So you might need to consider what the cost benefit ratio would be if you were to bring in your own time for a PAYE salary, and your personal tax implication from that and the dividend tax that you lose out from that. So yeah, if you were looking to bring in your own time, you need to be on a PAYE payroll structure and not have it through dividends. Dividends wouldn't be allowed to be included in the game. And finally, one final point relating to excluded expenditure. I wrote there the 4-month payment rule. So that's quite crucial in terms of being eligible expenditure to claim. So quite often not like a salary, if your remuneration package is a salary, unless you've actually paid that within 4 months of the year end, you won't be able to include that in the claim. So if you were, for instance, a couple of scenarios where you might have your own payroll going through, but because of cash flow reasons, you're not able to pay yourself. So even though you're still processing the payroll and you might be putting a gross salary in, so it's salary costs for the game, unless you actually have paid yourself that salary within 4 months of the year end, so you might have a December year end, you have to have had it paid by 30th of April, wouldn't be able to claim that cost on there. So it's the same as well if you're using sort of external worker, contractors come in and you've agreed that you won't start paying them until the game's been released and it's got income in to come in. And although they might have accrued costs because of development work has gone up through the whole process, unless you've actually paid them in that period, you won't be able to include those claim costs in the claim. So that's quite a crucial point, and really sort of an anti-avoidance rule from HMRC to make sure that people are not just accruing for cost in the game expenditure, not actually paying it, but getting an enhancement and claiming a tax credit based on costs they haven't paid for. So it's quite a crucial point, if anything is relevant for that. To give you some quick examples of the claimable costs that usually go in the claim, generally these are the most common ones: staff wages, national insurance, and pension costs. That's the main bulk. If you've got a team of people and they're staff members, that's the main cost. It's mostly their time that you bring in. If you're doing multiple projects at the same time and staff are doing flip-flopping between different projects, you would sort of allocate a percentage between project one and project two, make sure you apportion that fairly. And that's, yeah, so one of the main bulk costs you can usually bring in. Subcontractor costs, so anyone outside the organisation, you can bring in to claim for that, as long as they're solely working on sort of core development work. Again, not related to excluded stuff like marketing and advertising and things like that. So as long as they're working on a specific part of the game, you can bring those costs in. IT software and subscriptions, if they're bought whole solely for software relating to the game, you can claim that in full. If it's general admin software, it can be like email subscriptions and things like that. Adobe, often they'll have an element of claimable proportion you can bring in. So as listed as well, their percentage of overheads, which can apply to like bank charges, accounts fees, travel assistance, stationery, those sorts of things there. It's always worth bringing in a percentage of those. So even though they might not be directly linked to the game, you can still bring a percentage of overheads in there to making the claim. So it's really about trying to maximise the most amount of allowable expenditure you can, and claiming the percentage of overheads, claiming your IT software and staff wages as subcontractors is the main bulk costs that you have. So yeah, they're the main features of the claim costs and what you can bring into it.